Hey everyone, welcome back to Pretending with Dice. As always, I'm your host and game master, AJ. Just a super short intro this time. More of a sort of apology / explanation as to why this episode was pushed back by a week. And that's basically, I was away on holiday, away on vacation. I'd hoped to get all of the editing and everything done for it before I went away, to have it sort of uploaded and scheduled for our regular release date, the one that we'd announced at the end of last episode, but unfortunately I was unable to do that. Hence why here we are, if you're downloading this the day it comes out, a week late. But yeah, so that's by way of explanation. Apologies again, as I say, but hey, you know, these things happen. Yeah, so I guess that's I just felt like I needed to explain myself. So anyway, without any further ado, let's get into today's episode. Enjoy.
I think after a short rest and after his owl friend takes off to go hunt for the evening, Qiric is going to get up and head towards the gates and see if there are guards around that you can talk to.
So the gateway you're approaching is what's known as Westgate. Westgate itself is sort of its own little kind of mini quarter-like settlement within the kind of greater boundary of the capital. The walls that are facing you are pretty high. It's a very thick sort of outer defensive wall that's kind of a holdover from before the Demon War 60, 70 years ago. It's kind of the outer defences sort of thing of the city itself. The city being the kind of the largest on the continent, pretty much. This outer wall is actually encloses an area probably about 10, 15 miles across. And this is meant to sort of slow and stop any kind of invasions, slow them down enough to kind of allow the armed forces inside to deploy and keep them away from the central city itself. Westgate is one of the main sort of entrances to the sort of greater city area itself, and it's a pretty high double set of gates that seem to be pretty much at this point permanently open. You're not, even though it's sort of approaching evening, you're not seeing any signs of preparing to close the gates. However, there are quite a lot of uniformed people around as you approach. The main thing that kind of strikes you as you're approaching, though, is that sort of built into this gateway itself is essentially a full castle. Would you say Qiric's been near to the capital before? Does he have any kind of conception of sort of what the lay of the land is here or anything?
I would say that his time spent in major cities has been pretty minimal. That's not where he's comfortable. So while he will go there, and he's probably more familiar with Westgate than the city proper.
Yeah.
It's not like his favorite place to be in the world. No.
So you sort of, as close as you come to the city, is pretty much sort of in this kind of outer areas of the city. Maybe here, maybe there's other kind of major gates and minor gates kind of arranged around this, the outer wall. I mean, it's a huge area really that's enclosed. But yeah, you would know then, if you've kind of been in this sort of general vicinity before, that this castle built into the gatekeep is known as the Sapphire Keep, and it's kind of the main garrison for the outer wall, but it's also the headquarters of the army of the whole country, really. Even though you can see quite a lot of people, guards and stuff, on duty both atop the wall and kind of at ground level, that's sort of to be expected. There's a fairly, sort of steady flow of traffic, both on foot and carriages kind of going in and out of the gate as well. I would say it doesn't look like everybody's getting stopped by the guards. They're kind of keeping a fairly casual look. They're just kind of, this is the day-to-day business here. This is the capital city. There's a lot of traffic sort of thing. You do see occasionally, though, people getting stopped and questioned. even as you're sort of walking up, there's sort of a larger cart that gets sort of waved off to the side, and there's a sort of sign stuck in the ground this is all on the outside that says inspection area. There's a few carts there that your soldiers are sort of looking over. It doesn't appear to be like anything on like high alert or anything. It doesn't look to you like anything sort of untoward is going on. This just is the nature of this entry, basically.
Mm-hmm. Is there somebody who's like noticeably in charge of the guards in this area?
Make a perception check.
We're getting the kind of garbagey ones out of the way, so that's an 11.
11? I'll give it to you with an 11, yeah, because I mean, this is a fairly, I mean, it's a busy entranceway, but like, the kind of person you're looking for is going to be a little bit easier to spot, I would say. You're not looking for, is there anybody hiding in the shadows or anything like that. You can see there is, where most of the soldiers are pretty much sort of armor and they've got like tabards on, there is one with he's got a kind of clipboard, we'll say, and his uniform does have a shoulder cape in blue, sort of thrown over the shoulder, and he does look like, got slightly nicer set of armor on him, I would say, who is just kind of looking around and is directing people here and there, and he's not, occasional sort of shouted orders, but generally kind of is talking quietly to a couple of other soldiers who were stood next to him.
All right, Qiric's going to approach him.
Looks up as you approach. The other soldiers who are with him as well take notice as you kind of step forward. One of them takes a sort of step forward, kind of slightly imposing themselves between you and their commanding officer, but not in a sort of violent way, not drawing a weapon or anything, is just sort of wanting to be the point of contact. So, can I help you?
I've word from Colton's March. There's been an incident, and I think it's going to affect the King's celebration. There was an attack on the road, and they stole an opera singer's face, and I felt like I had to warn you about that.
Stole an opera singer's face?
Yes. So, let me start over. I was in Colton's March traveling with some friends, and we came across a carriage attack. Only the singer survived. She was in town, and then when we were speaking with her, she said that some shape changers potentially had stolen her face, and they were headed here, and it doesn't sound great. As far as I know, my friends are on the way. I was just sent as sort of a foreguard, if you will.
He turns back to his commanding officer. Captain, apparently there's been some trouble in where did you say it was? Colton's March?
Mm-hmm.
Not sure where that is, Captain. The captain looks up. It's some 80 miles away. Yeah, right. Well, there's been some trouble. Some opera singers had her face taken off. This is something to do with the King's celebration, did you say?
Yeah, she's supposed to perform for the King, and if someone stole her face to take her place, you might want to keep an eye out for that.
So we're looking for someone with a stolen face.
Well, we know where the person with the stolen face is. We don't know where the person wearing her face is.
Well, what kind of face? I mean, what does she look like?
She's a young lady, and blonde hair, human, goes by the name Marianne. Supposed to be a big deal.
I don't really go in for that opera myself. More of a music hall guy.
Qiric just nods, like, yeah, sure. Uh-huh.
Bit fancy for my taste. What about you, Captain? Captain sort of looks up. I didn't really get to the opera house very often myself. No.
Well, good news. We have an opportunity for that. Bad news. It may come at the expense of the King.
That's bad news, isn't it, Captain? Captain. Yes, that is concerning. What did you say your name was?
Oh, my name's Qiric.
Well, Mr. Qiric, come with me. We should probably take a statement. He sort of gestures towards the kind of gazebo set up to one side, which he guesses generally associated with the inspection area. But he sort of gestures for you to take a seat at the table.
Qiric is absolutely compliant.
Yeah.
No need to make this worse than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Do you need me to write this down or just relay it again?
So let me see if I've got this straight, and then we can fill in any gaps. So you and some companions were traveling Colton's March, and there was a woman, an opera singer there by the name of Marianne, whose face has been stolen, with the goal of killing the king.
Well, I can only guess as to what their goal is.
Yes. Who do we know who stole this face, and how do you know they're coming here?
Well, that's where she was coming. The whole troop was coming to perform for the king.
Right.
And they took off in a carriage, and they rushed right past us on their way, and that's, as we were going into Colton's March, we found the scene of the crime.
Do you know what this carriage looked like? I mean, it doesn't. We have quite a few, as you can see, passing through here every day.
What kind of roll do you want? Do you want an intelligence or a wisdom check to see if I remember?
Yeah, because you didn't actually see it. You've got a vague description of it, I will say. So I guess maybe make like a I think just a general wisdom check to sort of see if you can. This is more of like a can Qiric put together a coherent enough description kind of thing.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
With a whopping 12. My
12.
dice are
okay.
Even cute today.
Okay, so well, I guess the details you had then.
Did it at least have 4 wheels?
Yeah, it had 4 wheels.
Like,
It was. I'm trying to think what I told you actually.
made of wood.
Yeah, I think
by
maybe we can
horses.
kind of. I don't need to kind of maybe repeat everything because I can't remember what I said. But
But that's okay because Qiric didn't know either.
Yeah, we
so.
can say with a 12, you give over a description. You give over a description worth 12.
Perfect.
Which I would say doesn't narrow it down. I mean, you even amongst yourselves before you came here, you didn't have a particularly like, oh, that's it. This we know it had this distinguishing mark on it or anything like that. So you already had a sort of idea that like this is a fairly tough to distinguish coach. The only distinguishing thing for you really was that it went real fast past you in the night, and there weren't any other ones around at that point. You don't recall any damage being mentioned or anything like that. And no particular sort of ornate carvings or anything like this. But you're able, I think, with a 12 to give over a sort of as good a description as you can with that. But then at this point, once you've sort of given, well, it's got 4 wheels and it's enclosed and it had a driver, it definitely had a driver, and it's made of wood of some sort. Was going very fast a day or so ago. That the captain kind of frowns and says, well, that's we can keep an eye out for that, but I'm afraid that's 80 to 90% of everything that passes through here, and it's containing a young human woman. I mean, again, that will narrow it down some, but not a great deal, especially if they've already passed through.
Well, surely then we know where the celebration is happening, and therefore we should be able to find out where all the performers are staying, right?
That's yes, of course. And if you're saying that they're performing at the Opera House, then that would be the place to go next. It's a little out of my jurisdiction, but I can write you a missive you would be able to take on to my colleagues in the Central District.
Yes, and my friends should be here in perhaps in the morning, but they'll have the young woman with me and can give you further details from there while I go into town and deliver this.
Very well. What are your friend's name? I'll make a note of it. I may not be on duty in the morning.
We have Miri, she's a Tabashi, and Uga, who poorly dressed for the weather, very sharply dressed otherwise.
Sharply dressed for the opera.
I think just in general. No, I think just generally speaking, he's very well dressed. Is he a half orc or a full orc? I'm sorry, I don't remember.
He's a half orc.
Yes, he's a half orc. I don't know how they'll be arriving, probably by carriage of some sort. And then they have the Marianne, the human woman.
Right. He's been sort of scribbling notes along as you've been saying this, and when you're done, he kind of pulls off another piece of paper and quickly writes a sort of covering note on it and hands both of them to you. I can't leave my post here at Westgate, of course, but if you take this to Captain Cutler at the Central Watch House, I'm sure he'll be able to help you further. He's a very reliable sort.
How do I get there?
Have you not been to the city before?
Westgate is about as far as I've been.
Okay. Well, you're going to want to carry on this road. It'll lead you through the outlying districts into the centre of the city proper. The Central Watch House is on what's called the Square of Heroes. A wide open space, sort of statues, fountains and such. Hard to miss. In fact, I believe the Opera House itself is also sited on this the Square of Heroes. So, two birds with one stone there.
Thank you. I appreciate the help.
Of course. Now, be sure not to lose that note. Hopefully it'll convince Cutler of the seriousness of the situation. Yes.
Qiric very carefully takes the paper and tucks it into, like, an internal pocket. Not in his body, just in his coat. We're not putting it in the prison wallet. Like, we're just a regular pocket.
He puts it away for safekeeping in the only place he knows will be 100% safe. Okay, but basically, yeah, you've got a couple of miles walk still ahead of you before you reach the centre, or, yeah, however you want to get there. And, but you have leave to enter through the gate and find your way through. I guess this would maybe be a good time to jump back to Miri and Booga then. So, yeah, you've now been on the road for a little bit. You're looking out of the kind of small windows. I mean, this is the carriage you're in. It's got seats, but it's really not designed with being like a, usual comfortable passenger carriage in mind. So most of the windows are kind of panelled, where it would normally have windows on either side, quite large for looking out. There's maybe sort of smaller observation sort of windows. They don't want people looking in, but if there's guards, they want the guards to be able to see out. So it's kind of like a saw. It's more like funnily enough, it's like a letterbox, just looking out. So you're not fully enclosed, but it's definitely not as much of a view as you would normally have on a carriage ride, I would say. But yeah, as you leave the town, you kind of get a fairly familiar look at the woods that you've just spent the last kind of day or so trudging your way through. There is a sudden sort of spark of light as Marianne lights a small candle and puts it in the sort of lantern that's hanging from the ceiling.
I'm much obliged. I'll need that to read my book. I'm starting to have some thoughts about the fact that we might be meeting royalty. I suspect I may need to brush up on my decorum a bit more before we get there.
This is the important thing is you never turn your back on them. It is considered most rude.
Duly noted. Oh, we've got quite a ride ahead of us. Just out of character for a moment, how packed is the back of this thing? Are we kind of bunched in with a lot of mail and packages and stuff?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you haven't got bags on top of you kind of thing, but there's not a lot of leg room. You're kind of bunched up, I would say, on probably a bench on one side, the three of you, and there's a whole bunch of sacks kind of taking up the other kind of half of the carriage.
Okay.
You get the feeling this is, Colton's March definitely wasn't the only stop, and you put a bag or two in when you were helping him load, but he's come up the road all the way from Wild River and probably even further on.
Okay.
Wild River being the larger town a little bit down the road from Colton's March.
When Marianne lit the lantern, Miri very briefly woke up in the way that cats do, looked around, went back to sleep. She's kind of just curled up like a cat. Just a cat.
So pretty much got in the carriage and fell asleep.
Yeah, if there's nothing to look out the windows, then Miri's going to be like, this is really boring. Let's go to sleep now.
Probably quite cold as well still, so...
Yeah, it's not... I mean, you're out of the wind kind of thing, so you're definitely in a better spot than the driver. But it's pretty cold out, and it's... The shelter is a lot of help, really, but it's not as warm as it was in the pub. The fireplace. You're basically sitting in what would be the seats for guards if it was a particularly dangerous route, which there weren't any guards on it when you joined it. but the carriage is outfitted for that. But like, there's no heating or anything set up in the carriage itself.
I know that Buga was a little chilly when we were, I think, camping, but cold does not seem to bother Miri that much.
Yeah.
Lucky.
I mean, you've still got your camping gear with you, so I mean, you could probably get the blankets and things out.
Oh, yeah. It's still going to be wrapped up in that blanket cape that I already had, so...
Yeah.
He's just going to study his book for the most part. Pour over details, look to see if there's any kind of chapters about, like, dealing with royalty or, like, high society, the highest society.
Okay.
And sweat a little bit, thinking that he's going to make some kind of bad move.
I guess make a history check for me, just to sort of see how well you're taking in this information from the book.
Okay, 6.
6? Okay, yeah, I mean... You kind of flip to some relevant pages and thinking like, okay, well, this is going to be like, okay, I will find exactly what I need here. And what you find is there is a lot to remember here. Some of it seems to contradict other bits. Some of it seems to be like, you spend some time reading a whole passageway and then only to find, like after like 2-3 pages, that it says, but of course this isn't really practiced in modern society anymore. You're sort of taking it in, but after a while you're kind of glazing a little bit and you're not entirely sure that you're going to be able to remember all of this.
I think that maybe over time he just kind of dozes off as he's trying to concentrate but just can't really pull it together.
You're sort of holding the book up like to try and get a good angle on it, and after a while you just kind of sort of end up sort of dozing while holding the book open and just kind of leaning against the kind of the wall of the carriageway, and halfway through a page you just kind of doze off.
Cool. And I guess we'll ride from there.
Yeah. The carriage driver is going very fast. You'd put a bit of sort of impetus on him to be like, no, we need to get to Valliné as soon as possible, and it's quite some distance, so he's fully intent on the road and that, and Marianne falls asleep before you do, Booger, I think. She sort of leans against a mailbag and just kind of dozes off as well.
I'm assuming that we all have like one blanket with our camping stuff, so I'm gonna give her my blanket. I'm just gonna tuck my blanket in around her.
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Like, I'm gonna wake up at one point just randomly and be like, oh, she looks cold.
I think, I mean, she hasn't got her own blanket. She'd been given a travelling cloak from the pub when she left. She's sort of got that a little bit wrapped around her, but the blanket, it's a nice gesture. You've got your tabaxi fur as well, so that's helping you keep warm.
Cats are on hots anyway, so.
Yeah. So you travel on into the night without incident, it seems, for now.
And more ominous words were never spoken.
I was trying not to say them in an ominous way. So everything seems fine for now.
Everything's fine.
For now.
So, okay, well, as I say, a little bit jumping back and forth here. So, Qiric, how quickly are you kind of rushing to get into the centre, or are you sort of just like, now you're allowed in, you're just kind of making your way there? Bear in mind, you're probably still pretty, in general, kind of exhausted. You've been, I think at this point, it's been a fairly long day for you.
Yeah, I think his first stop is going to be to deliver the message at the town's center, and then I think he's probably going to go find an inn or something. So I think because this is unfamiliar territory and it's really not his favorite place to be in the world, he's going to be taking his time, like making sure that he gets where he's going, because he actually has no idea where that is. So he's just following the road very carefully. Yeah.
So the first thing that you see when you pass through the large gate itself is that, kind of below the main fortress, is that it's actually kind of, it's almost like a small town kind of around the gate here once you get inside. As I say, it's kind of its own little district. I mean, a lot of that is kind of built up around the fact that, this is a massive fortress here for the army, so, there's a couple of taverns, and it being like the first entrance, into the main city of a lot of people may have been on the road for a long time. There's, stabling facilities, and, it's kind of almost a small town right here around Westgate, but, that we're kind of in the greater Valliné area here. So you can kind of keep moving, and it almost feels like you're heading out of town, but you can see sort of on the horizon as you kind of carry on following the road. It almost is like you're heading out of town, and the next town is just there, sort of thing. Almost feeling like you're heading back into countryside, but like a not very sparsely populated countryside. Like looking around, you can see the sort of bulk of the wall enclosing the whole area now that you're in here. It's not really a basin or anything, but it's kind of flat plain lands around here, so you can kind of see all the way across to the far side, where there's again other kind of settlements and that, but there's a fairly large area of kind of farmland enclosed within the wall itself as well here. This was the idea of building the wall this large, was like, in case of a siege, we need to still be able to make food, kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of a couple of miles walk before you start getting towards the more built-up central district. Mm-hmm. The whole way as you're going, the sort of density is increasing. You sort of start passing through what could be like described as neighborhoods and things, but you're still staying on this main kind of King's Road. The King's Road itself, it's narrowed a little bit after you've entered through Westgate, but it's still very much like this is the main track through. And the further in you get, it transitions from well-maintained but still a dirt road to cobbled streets, and all of a sudden the buildings are starting to get a bit taller, and you approach another kind of defensive wall, and you realise that this is probably the gateway into the central district. Things start being signposted, which is, as you say, it's your first time here, so you're not entirely sure where you're going, but there's definitely, like, now you're in civilization, and this is being, people come here from all over. Somebody thought, hey, maybe we ought to let people know where things are. So there are definitely, you start seeing some signposts. You don't really kind of recognise any of the name places straight away, but among many, there is the Dream Glade, the Whispershore Docks, the University Quarter, the Overlook District, which that sign seems to point towards the large promontory, which kind of looms over much of the city. There's even from here you can see some quite lavish mansions and compounds. This sort of seems to be where the wealthy and noble make their homes. There's also on the promontory is the unmissable kind of bulk of the royal palace itself, which obviously from where you are you can see it, but it's clear that it can be pretty much seen from much of the city. It's occupying a pretty large portion of the promontory itself, which sort of juts out into and over the sea. Finally, you spy a familiar name on a signpost, thankfully. It's the one you were looking for the Square of Heroes, so that's kind of pointing you in the right direction. Thankfully, you're already kind of on the right track for that. The further into this sort of central city you progress, you quickly become aware of just how busy it has become around you as well, I'll say. The streets and pavement sidewalks are packed with people just going about their business. There's carts moving to and fro on the road itself. Just people of all shapes and sizes moving through the city, heading who knows where. It's clear to you now you've made it to the big city.
I think as he enters through the gate, and he sees like everything essentially. It's a little overwhelming, so he kind of just sticks off to the side and is like, "Oh, I hate this. Okay." So he steels himself and then makes for whatever building has the most city guard milling about it.
Okay, following this up, I guess you kind of keeping head down and trying not to sort of try not to run into too many people as you go.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. This walk in from the Westgate is probably, I would say it's a couple hours walk if you're just kind of ambling. So you get into the central district and see a sign for Square of Heroes, and you're like, right, okay, this is where I'm going, and just kind of try not to make eye contact. There's a lot of scary city people here. Nobody's causing you any trouble, but you're able to kind of stay in like the shadow of a cart that seems to be heading in the right direction, and dodging around people and that, and you find yourself in what you finally realise must be the Square of Heroes, and it's a very, very large open area, which is it's almost like a shock after all the kind of hustle and bustle that you've been sort of powering through for probably the last 15-20 minutes or so. It's not like less busy, it's just all of a sudden you're not moving between buildings as much, and it's not quite as dense, and you look up and you can see rows of columns with a giant fountain in the middle of this square, and it's probably 200 meters square, or about 600, 700 foot square. Sort of, like I say, large open area, rows of columns. On each column is there's a statue. You don't recognize specifically anybody on them, but you would guess that they are sort of heroes of heroes of various incidents throughout history. And the fountain itself in the center is has a large carved, slightly abstract form on top of it, but with sort of recognizable humanoid shapes within it. And all around the square itself are a series of quite grand buildings, all of them multi-level, multi-storied, and of various kind of stone and timber construction. There's still quite a lot of people here, I will say, milling around. Sort of a lot of them kind of looking at the different the bases of the statues, looking at the fountain. There's various food vendors kind of on food carts, kind of making their way through. You know, sort of all the sounds of shouting and people. On an evening out now, I would say, because it's gotten dark by this point, but it is fairly well lit here. There's braziers and lanterns hanging from the buildings and such. Can I get, then, I guess, a perception check from you to see if you can see this, see your destination?
Sure. All right, Dice, this is your kind of last chance here. All right, that's an 18.
18, okay. You sort of take a beat to just sort of take it, as in you realise you're probably in the right area. And with an 18, kind of looking around, a few buildings kind of catch your eye as you're looking for the Grand Watch House. On one corner there is a sort of 4-level, quite large. I mean, anywhere in the country it would be considered like this is a big manor house, but here it's just kind of on the corner of a street, actually on the corner of the King's Road as it comes into the square, and there's a hanging sign from it which says Explorers Guild. Looking around on the far side of the square itself, almost exactly halfway along the square, is a very large building with marbling on the front and very intricate carvings and such. There's no sign on it, but you get a sort of musical feeling from the carvings. This might be the Opera House. There's a set of marble stairs heading up to it. And looking around, you see the other side of the square to that. There's a building which does seem to have some guards sort of heading in and out of it. Again, stone construction. It looks a little bit more kind of less well ornamented and more kind of like this is an official building, official kind of day-to-day business building than something like the Opera House itself. But yeah, you found what you think is probably your destination.
Did I have a specific name of someone that I was supposed to talk to, or?
Yeah, Captain
Cutler?
Yeah.
Okay.
Captain Cutler. City Watch.
So Qiric is going to go up to that building.
Mm-hmm.
Did they stop him outside, or did they let him go inside?
You're not stopped as you go in, and you kind of find yourself in a sort of, almost like a kind of 2-story entrance hall here. There's a large waiting area to one side. There's a lot of people sat down, some of whom seem to be in handcuffs. There's various desks set up where people are being booked and interviewed and that, and there's a large sort of reception desk facing the entranceway. I'm kind of picturing the start of RoboCop where there's all the people in the police station.
Yeah.
But maybe not quite so chaotic and this town is falling apart kind of vibe. It's more just like this is a busy police station sort of thing. And you can see behind the desk there is what looks to be a female dwarf wearing a pair of glasses and is writing very quickly in a ledger before dealing with the person in front of you, essentially. And this person sort of nods and turns around and clutching a bag to their chest and turns around and walks out. So looks up. Can I help? Who's next?
Qiric steps forward and he brings out the note that he was given. I have a message for Captain Cutler from Westgate.
Okay. What was your name?
Qiric Woodbirth.
Qiric. Okay. Turns to one side and pulls there's a series of hanging ropes. Sort of looks at them for a second and pulls the third one in, and you can hear a distant sort of ringing of a bell. And you see down the end, sort of far end of the right-hand side of this entrance hall, a human man looks up from his desk, looks towards where you are, and comes and and joins you at the desk. The dwarf at the desk. This person's asking for you, sir. The captain says, it looks pretty impatient. Says, well, out with it then. What can I do for you?
Qiric just hands over the paper, and I think he's going to try and step a little bit to the side to let whoever's next come up to the counter.
Yeah.
Just generally being unobtrusive.
Oh, I 100% feel that. I'm just like, I'm out of the way now. Please.
Yeah. Please do not let me be a bother. My God, that would be catastrophic.
Yeah. Immediately behind you, Tiefling walks up and says, Lieutenant, it's happened again. They beat me up and stole my bagpipes. And Lieutenant says, okay, well, Jimmy, go and have a seat down. You know the plate. Yeah, over there in the waiting area. Thank you very much. Said, but it's the third time this week. Said, yes, we'll deal with him. Go take a seat. The captain is sort of reading the note as this is going on behind you. Come over here to my desk. Yeah, let's get away from this. And he leads you, Qiric, to the desk that he was sat at, further back into the hallway here. Offers you a chair.
Qiric nods a quick little thanks and then sits directly across from him.
Right, so my colleague at Westgate says that you bring news of a plot against the king at the Opera House.
Yes, and then he relays the story. And he's a little bit slower and, like, as thorough as he can be.
Yeah. He's kind of patiently listening and seems to be sort of jotting down some notes as you're talking. Mm-hmm. When you say about the plot being sort of based around the Opera House, he sort of frowns a little bit, says, well, it's not really my thing, but I believe I saw some posters for the opening night of the new season, was it?
I believe so.
Right. As you sort of finish your story, he kind of finishes writing up his notes and then sort of rubs the bottom of his face. He's slightly unshaven before looking back up at you. And here's the thing, Mr. Woodworth. Without evidence, without a first-hand witness, I can't do much more at this stage than write a report, I'm afraid. It's not that I don't believe you, trust me. You certainly seem legitimately concerned, but you got to understand. We simply don't have the manpower to follow up every uncorroborated story that gets brought through these doors. I can make a report, I can send something up to the King's Guards and whatnot. Not that I expect to hear back from them, but that's another story. But we'll need your witness, Marianne, I think you said. We'll need her at the very least if you want to take this further.
Well, they're on their way, so I think if you can send guards to go to the Opera House, my friends will get here in the morning, and then they can come in, and we can give you a more thorough statement.
Well, as I said, I can't really spare anyone at the moment. That's the issue here. Tell you what, though. You say she's coming in the morning. Bring her in. We'll take a full statement from her, and I'll see what I can do. Trust me, we do take threats to the royal family and such very seriously, but as I say, without evidence, well, look around. We've got a lot on our plate right now. It's been very clear since you walked in that this is a very busy watch house. I mean, obviously this is the central one, but yeah, there's no lie here. They are very busy.
Is it usually this busy, or is it just...
We're always busy, yeah, but, well, budget cuts recently haven't helped matters. Plus, well, I guess this time of year, always a little bit rowdy. People love to celebrate Frostfire season.
If you say so.
Yeah. Well, let's just say the ale doesn't run out quite so quickly here as it does out in the sticks.
Is there an inn around here that's a little slightly quieter by any chance?
Yes. I assume you're looking for somewhere to stay tonight. You come out here, take a left. You'll see one of the side roads called Baker Street. Head up, a short ways up there. There's a place called the Half Full Cask. A little bit less rowdy than a few of the drinking establishments in this area. In fact, if you're looking for quiet, it's probably best you steer clear of the square altogether. Tends to bring in the tourists, those out for a good time on a weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Just be sure to bring your witness in first thing in the morning. We can get the ball rolling on this.
Of course.
He stands up. Well, if there was nothing else,
Qiric follows suit.
I will speak to you in the morning then.
Qiric just gives him a nod and heads back out the way that he came.
Okay.
Is there like any indication of how you would get to Baker Street?
Not really. No, I mean, there's some. I'd say the signposting on the streets themselves. So it might just be a matter of exploring a little bit. The way he sort of said it, it sort of implied it was like it's one of the roads off of the square, really.
Okay. Yeah, Qiric will just make his way as best he can.
Yeah.
Breathing a pretty heavy sigh of relief once he's off the main stretch.
Yeah. It takes you a little, I'd say probably takes you 5-10 minutes. You kind of do like a little bit of a sort of loop around the square to try and find this road, and eventually you do. It's not the most, it's not the closest of the sort of side roads, but yeah, you do find your way down, and it's very quickly the buildings are sort of closing in on either side, which I would imagine is like a little bit more out of Qiric's comfort zone.
Yeah, a little claustrophobic, but at least there aren't a billion people.
Yeah. The street you're stepping onto, I mean, it's not deserted at all or anything, but it's a little bit less of a kind of main drag than the King's Road was. I said the buildings are a little bit close together, but true to his words, there is an inn. Well, I mean, there's several inns along here, but you find the one that he recommended after a few minutes of walking, just down one side, and yeah, it does appear to be not quite as rowdy as some of the ones you pass. There's one called, you definitely pass one called the Thirsty Tap, which does appear to have like seemingly, you hear it as you're coming, as you're passing, and as you're going. There seems to be like a non-stop kind of mixture of like 50% like chug, 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 and just the sounds of punching as you go. And nobody really seems to be sort of intervening in that, so maybe that was not the best place for a quiet night, but you find yourself to the half-full cask. And I'm not saying it's empty. There is definitely, there's a few people kind of sat around tables in the main sort of room as you enter, but it's more kind of quiet conversation being had, and there's a fireplace blazing. And unlike your trip to the second pub you went to in Colton's March, there's no kind of like scraping of stopping of music and everybody kind of looking around to see who the sort of non-locals are. You're pretty much, you walk in and everyone's keeping themselves. They're not like looking, you're not getting odd looks of like, who's this or anything like that. This is very much like people are used to there being some unfamiliar faces here, so if anything this is slightly more welcoming than the reception you got in Colton's March. I was going to say, if you want, we can just sort of say you're able to get yourself a room and that would, but
yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, but you're able to, if you want to just sort of move it along, you're able to get yourself a room. Are you looking for sort of one just for yourself, or like with an eye towards maybe we ought to have room for the others when they get here as well, or are you just looking for a place to just like give me somewhere quiet to lie down in a dark room?
Yeah, I think he's just looking to crash, and then we'll see what the others want to do when they get there.
Okay, so you're able to get one at a price of 10 silver a night here. A little pricier, I think, than you're used to out in the country, but hey, that's the city.
Yeah, it'll get you. Glad I only got the one room. But also, I'm pretty sure that he got money off of one of the corpses, so he's okay.
That's true. You did pickpocket the corpses.
Not entirely, just a little bit.
They don't
just
need
like
it.
Enough.
What are they going to do with it?
They're dead.
Yeah.
No one needs to know but me.
It's not like you took it off the eyes of a corpse in like a mortuary or anything. Like,
no.
This was yeah.
Totally fine. No,
yeah, it's totally fine.
No one needs to worry about it.
Pay it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a long day. You pretty much probably just crash, I would guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Miri and Booga, you're kind of awoken finally. I mean, you find it oddly, I would say oddly comfortable in the back of this after a while. The rhythm of the carriage and that, you would imagine maybe that, this is going to be a bumpy ride, especially the speed you're going, but after a while you just kind of get used to it, and you find you actually have slept for a good portion of the journey, and you're sort of awoken almost as the first rays of sun start kind of creeping their way through the small window flaps on the side of the carriage. You don't recognize the countryside that you're heading through, as you wake up, but it still has the sort of dusting of snow that you were used to as you left the village the previous evening. And but the sun is coming up. It appears you are still on the move as well. Still seem to be going a pretty fast clip there.
Okay.
Miri will do big stretch and very loudly do the big cat yawn.
Yeah.
And be ready.
Yeah, likewise, Booga will maybe wake up from the sound of the cat giving its meow or whatever, and he'll stretch and be like, "Oh, morning all," and he'll peer out the window. "Oh, it looks like we've made some distance. Don't recognize this land."
Yeah, this is fun. I like traveling and like seeing new places. It's cool.
Well, hopefully we're close. Is there any means of, is there a slot or anything that I could pull back to, get to the driver to contact him?
There's a hatch in the ceiling.
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously the doors, but, you probably don't want to open the door as you're travelling along.
No, not so much. Don't really want to have to crawl along the side of the wagon.
As action-packed and cool as that would be, it's probably not.
Needless.
Yeah, there's a hatch in the roof you can get through.
Okay. I'll check and see where we are then. And Booga will pop his head up out. Good fellow, are we close to the capital yet?
He turns to look at you, and he looks very tired. But he's quite bags under his eyes. He gives you a thumbs up and goes, "Should be at Westgate within the hour."
Ah, good.
You see, he's got a flask next to him. He's sipping from, and you get a whiff of it just as he takes a drag, and that's the strongest coffee you've ever smelt. You'd use that to strip paint off a fence.
Nice. Like tar.
Yeah, that may be the only thing that's kept him on the road. The horses also certainly look a little bit tired, but yeah, they're still going. You get the feeling maybe, you slept through it, but maybe he stopped at a certain point in the night and got water and some food for them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're definitely out of the woods. Literally out of the woods. At this point, as you're sort of traveling around a kind of curve in the road, as you're sort of half out of the hatch is what I'm sort of picturing, and as the carriage kind of rounds a bend in the road, you get a sort of look down quite broad hill. This is not steep in any way. It's just kind of a sort of downward slope in the terrain a little bit, and you can see, as true to his word again, in the distance, the quite imposing sight of defensive wall ringing around Valliné, and you can see the large fortress of the Sapphire Keep at Westgate, with the road stretching down towards it. Some distance, but you can see it.
So is he gonna drop us at the gate, or do we get I don't know. There's probably a mill house within. Maybe the mill house is within the city proper, and I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there.
It's up to you. You can ask him to drop you if you want.
It might just get us straight through the gate without any kind of questions if we're just in the back of the mail cart. That's our business.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we'll just hunker down then and ride out the rest of this hour or whatever it was.
Sure. So yeah, he. It's kind of, I say the sunlight is up, and it's sort of early hours. He slows down as he approaches Westgate. To the horses sort of slow to, a bit of a sort of a trot rather than a gallop. But they are. They're definitely still sort of overtaking some of the slower traffic as you go in, and as you thought, the mail carriage has been the insignia on the side and everything has brought you a little bit of immunity to bureaucracy, I guess. And as there's looking out of the windows, you can see soldiers there, and they just kind of wave them through.
Well, the only thing I'd want to ask them is, we probably know that Qiric came through Westgate, so we should find out where he is. They might be good place to start.
That's true. If you want to.
He's pretty distinctive. Okay, so I'll ask I'm gonna pop out the top of Sir Rickard is your name, right? And yeah.
That's right.
Okay, can you stop real quick? And I want to ask the guards a question. and then I'll be right back.
No problem.
Okay.
He's shaking a little bit. He's wired from the coffee. Whoa! And he brings the horses to a stop.
Okay.
You're already kind of through the gate, but like, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna like pop out the back of the carriage real quick, and go up to one of the guards and say, "Have you seen a furbolg come through here? It was a tall guy. His name is Qiric, and he's here, and he might have mentioned us that we were coming after, and we're gonna see him soon, and we're gonna try to save the king. We have an opera singer, and she's got a story to tell, and then we've got to try and save the king, I think, maybe. Have you seen a furbolg?
The guard you're speaking to,
just the first guard I come to.
The first guard you come to, yeah, it's the guy. The first one you come to is a halfling woman who just kind of looks up at you. Hey, we had someone here yesterday talking about saving the king.
Oh yeah. Do you know where he went?
Well, probably into town. I wasn't on duty then, but I think the captain was. Looks over and there's a kind of tired looking, but he's sort of start the shift, sort of looking. The captain's there, just with a large mug of tea in front of him, and he's just sort of observing the road. Shouts over, Captain, didn't you have people coming through yesterday talking about saving the king? Captain turns around. Oh, we have 3 or 4 every day, but which one was it?
He was a furbolg. He's very tall.
Oh, the opera singer one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we sent him to the Square of Heroes.
Okay. Thank you. Do you know where in the Square of Heroes? To anyone specific, or?
Only to the main watch house there, Captain. Who did I send him to? Probably Cutler. I sent him to Captain Cutler.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. We'll go find Captain Cutler. And I'm gonna hop back into the carriage, and I'm gonna ask. Actually, I'm gonna ask Rickard. Rickard, would you drop us off in the Square of Heroes?
Well, sure. That's well, a little off my usual route, but I can swing back to the sorting center. Yeah, no problem.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
You get back in, you close the thing, you just hear, yeah! And then the horses set off again.
I like the image of dude with like pinprick pupils, like just kind of sitting there, like vibrating in his seat.
Yeah, like Fry in that one episode where he drank 300 coffees.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, you don't have quite as long of a wait to get through to the town as Qiric's walk was. So after about 10-15 minutes, the buildings start getting larger around you. You're out of the countryside, sort of farmland, and very quickly you're sort of back in shadow as all the sun is sort of blocked out by these, buildings around here. I mean, we're kind of in a sort of fantasy setting, but we're still looking at sort of 4 or 5 stories of some of these buildings. This is the most well built up area of the country, and. But even at this early hour, I mean, I guess we could probably say it's probably about 6 o'clock in the morning. There's still a lot of people walking around. I would say, in contrast to the previous night where Qiric was trying to find somewhere, a few less drunk people. There's less of a rowdy vibe, there's some hungover people, and there's some people who are up for work early in the morning, and yeah, it's a little frosty as well, I will say. You're back on the northern coast here, and the city's right on the coast. So it's pretty cold, I will say. There's the morning frost is sort of, there's definitely like a little bit of a kind of sea mist has sort of rolled in, and it's quite chilly as you sort of look out of the windows. People are wrapped up against the cold and sort of trudging through. It doesn't look like there's been a particularly heavy snow here at all or anything, so people aren't kind of like fighting their way through snowdrifts or anything, but it just doesn't look particularly warm out. The buildings suddenly reach a sort of break as Rickard pulls the carriage into the sort of the road that rings the Square of Heroes, and he comes to a stop and knocks on the top. So, well, we're at the square.
Oh, thank you, Rickard. We're gonna go find Qiric now. Thank you very much.
Anything to save the king. I'm yeah.
Yes, thank you for your assistance.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be sure to mention you and your help.
Yeah. Well, if you run into me again, I'll buy you a drink. This has been an adventure for me.
No, go get some rest. You look like you could use it.
Oh, I'm good to go. I can do it again.
I suggest you don't.
You just hear the sound of a bell ringing, and you go, God, look at the time. Oh, I need to get this post in. I'm, 12 hours early. Probably a record. It doesn't matter. I need to get it in. And he goes, good luck. And he and the horses set off again. Slightly, the horses themselves looking pretty ragged at this point. But they're not. He doesn't quite get the turn of speed out of them in this last one as he had previously, as they just sort of trot off and that. But you watch him sort of make a sort of slight loop, and you see him attempt to make a turn, and then decide to just do a full loop of the square, and then he as he passes you again, waves his hat at you, and then disappears back off up one of the side roads.
I do hope he lets those horses rest soon.
Yeah, me too.
Well, let's we should try and find Qiric first. There's got to be an inn or something around here. Bound to be where they are.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna go ask it at the guardhouse and see if Qiric was there.
Good idea. Let's do that first, and then, well, I'll keep my eyes peeled on the way.
All right. So I think we walk into. Do you want us to do the same perception check to see if we can figure out where the guardhouse is?
Yeah, sure.
All right, 19.
19. Oh yeah, no problem at all. Looking around, yeah, you sort of take in again, much like Qiric did. You sort of take in the scenery here, and again, you also notice that you pick out that's probably the opera house. That's that look. Oh, Explorers Guild. That's interesting. And that's a nice fountain. And there it is. That's the watch house. It's just the other side of the square from you, so
Nice.
No problem at all.
So I assume the three of us are hopping in there. Mir will be in the lead, just sort of like scouting ahead, as usual.
Sure. It's not quite as busy as it was the previous evening, but there's as you step inside this the watch house, there's still fair hustle and bustle as the dregs of the previous evening are being processed. There is a quite frazzled-looking dwarf on the front desk. As you walk over, yeah, how can I help?
Hi, we're looking for our friend Qiric. Here's a Fairball. We're here to see Captain Cutler to see if maybe he saw Qiric.
There he is, just coming on shift. Rather than pulling the bell this time, the lieutenant shouts across to you see a human man is just walking out of a side room with a mug of what looks to be either tea or coffee. Either way, it's steaming. Just bring it to his lips as she shouts, "Captain Cutler!" And he just sort of stops. What is it, Lieutenant?
Hello, Mr. Captain Cutler, sir. We're looking for a friend, Qiric. He's a verbal. We were here to potentially maybe save the king, and we're looking for him.
Verbolg. Oh yes, sir. I spoke to your friend last night. Something about a plot at the opera house.
Well, do you know where he's been? Do you know where he is right now? Because we've got to find him.
Well, I don't know where he is right now, of course, but I did point him towards some lodgings. He was looking for an inn to stay at. Where was it? Oh, the half-full cask down on Baker Street. That's where I sent him. I'm expecting him back in, actually. He's meant to be bringing me a material witness to this investigation. He sort of looks at all of you. I'm assuming that's actually one of you, then.
Oh, so maybe we should just wait here, and he'll come in. What do you think, Buka?
Absolutely. No point traipsing around the place. We might as well stay in the warm.
Yeah, it is definitely warmer in here than out in the square itself. Maybe this is a convenient time to bring Qiric in as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you guys want to start
split the party? Let's unsplit the party.
Yeah.
Marianne sort of, as he says, "Oh, material witness." Marianne starts forward. That is probably me, Captain.
Yes, this is Marianne. She is an opera singer, and she's supposed to perform soon for I don't know, the opening, right, of the season, I think. And this, yeah. So this is where we got the idea that maybe someone who stole her face was gonna try something naughty.
He gestures for you to follow him. Well, if you want to join me at my desk, we can get this started before your friend gets here. We can go over what he told me, and maybe you can fill in any gaps. It leads the way to a desk with 3 chairs in front of it, and seats himself behind it. Shuffles some paperwork. Oh, here we go. Right, so your friend brought this in last night. Note from our colleagues over at the Westgate Garrison, who took the initial statement. So... You, he sort of looks at Marianne, who nods. You were attacked in the woods outside of Colton's March, some 80 miles from here, he scribbles on the note, by persons unknown who you believe are intending to impersonate you in order to get close to the king at tonight's opening at the Opera House. Is that about the long and short of it? Marianne kind of shuffles in her chair and says,
Yes, they forced my carriage off of the road, killed my manager and our driver and our guard. There's one of them who, I don't know if she was their leader or not, but she looked directly in my eyes and her face, it changed. It became like mine.
I'm sorry you had to go through that, miss. This face stealing, good on me. We see some stuff here, but that's a new one on me. And maybe this is the time that Qiric joins.
Yeah, Qiric will come in.
Yeah.
And once he sees everyone is seated at Cutler's desk, he'll just, as quietly as possible, pull up a chair from another desk and sit down with the group.
Okay, make a stealth check.
Oh, Lord.
Because it's funny.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay, so that was a critical failure. So I imagine that he tries to go to a desk that is currently occupied, and he grabs a hold of the chair that's in front of it and starts scraping it across the floor, and it is the loudest, cringiest sound, and he knows it, and he's like wincing as he does it, but he doesn't stop, and for some reason he thinks going slower will make it better somehow, but it doesn't. It just makes it last longer until everybody in that station is looking at him, and he is blushing feverishly as he pulls the chair over to the desk.
Okay. You pull the chair across to the desk. It's the loudest, most, I don't know, awkward, annoying screeching you've ever heard. You deposit the chair finally at the desk. Everyone in here is staring at you, including the person who was sat in the chair. And they get up and go, fine, I will find another seat.
You took an occupied chair.
Yeah, you did say someone was sat at the desk.
Well, it's a critical failure, so...
Yeah. You were just like, you in my head. So you're looking around, you're going, I need to get a chair. I'm just going to be... Like, you've just kind of looked down and gone, that's the back of a chair, and you've grabbed it, and you're just kind of looking where you're going rather than at the chair as you're dragging it. Mm-hmm. And the chair's not particularly heavy at all or anything, but you're just scraping it as you turn around. There was
some poor halfling that was sitting in there.
Yeah, there's a gnome sat in it who's with like a little wispy beard who's just looking up at you. He's a police officer as well. He's got like a little armor on, and he just stands up and just looks at Cutler and says, I told you this would happen, Cutler. I told you I need a gnome-specific chair at my desk. He sort of raises his head and walks off. You now have a chair to sit in.
Oh, he sits as low as possible, and he might be contemplating just dying on the spot.
Booga kind of turns to him and goes, don't you dare do anything like that in front of the king. That was one hell of an arrival.
Can I kill myself? Is that an option?
Well, I suppose it wasn't all that bad. Anyway. Good to see you all the same.
Hi.
Mary bats his knee and she's like, no, it's lovely. You're great. I love you. You're here. It's fun. We're here.
Cutler is just kind of staring.
At these three nut jobs.
Oh, yes, anyway, Cutler, where were you? Yes, the plot against the king.
Yes.
We shouldn't tarry any longer.
Right. Yeah, of course. Oh, I need to talk to Corporal Squires later on to iron all that out. Don't worry about it. Yes. He nods to you, Qiric. Following on from our discussion last night, I sent a report up to the Royal Guards. As per usual, I've received nothing back from them, but at least they've been made aware of what you told me. I did inquire as to the possibility of taking the investigation further, but the Commissioner was not convinced on your word alone, Mr. Woodworth, I'm afraid. I did, however, take it upon myself, while off duty, to have a quiet word with a friend of mine who is employed over at the Opera House. Just a quiet word, mind. Can't ruffle any feathers without authorization. He was able to tell me that young Mr. Rand here was not expected until this evening, just prior to the performance itself, so she's not been seen there. Marianne kind of cuts in.
Yes, that is how these things usually go. My manager, he thought it added to my mystique, my, how would you say, star power, to arrive in such a way.
So if they haven't been there, we have an opportunity to go and beat them to the Opera House.
Potentially.
I suppose we should talk to the people and talk to them about the real Marianne.
Can I suggest to you, Captain, that you get some of your men in here to get a good look at this girl, make sure that they memorize her face, and then keep their eye about town, so that if they see somebody matching her description that isn't with us, then we can be alerted.
Yeah, well, we have a sketch artist on staff. Maybe he'll be helpful.
Sound idea.
He picks up a small bell on his desk and rings it. The frazzled lieutenant from the front desk comes over. What can I do for you, Captain? Lieutenant, I'm going to need Officer Thompson for a... Can you go and fetch him for me, please? Right away, sir. She hurries off. Cutler sort of twiddles his fingers for a second. Gonna get any of you coffee or something while we wait?
Yes, I'll take a hot drink. Coffee's fine.
Oh, yes, coffee would be lovely. Thank you.
I've been enough of a bother this morning, I think.
Just gonna sit here and try not to make any more waves.
Nope. Trying very hard to be invisible.
Yeah. Well, suit yourself. He sort of steps into the... there was a sort of break room and comes back with a pair of coffees for each of you. Marianne has not asked for one. A half-elf comes up to the desk at this point. Oh, you wanted to see me, Captain? Not in full uniform, I will say. It's got like a badge hanging off of their sort of general kind of... They've got kind of an overcoat on and that, but you get the feeling they're more of like a sort of contractor, given a bit more leeway in terms of wearing full armour and things like that. Bit of a different one for you here, officer. Going to need you to just knock up a couple of quick portraits of Mr. Rand here for identification purposes. The half-elf sort of nods and kind of moves around, sort of getting... It's almost like he's kind of getting a good view in 3D almost of Marianne's face before pulling up another chair, quite a bit quieter than Qiric did. It's quite intensely sort of looking as he pulls out like a sketch pad, and quite quickly over the course of sort of 5-10 minutes draws like a pretty faithful representation of Marianne's face from like a sort of profile kind of view. Turns the sketchbook round to show Cutler. What do you think, Captain? Cutler nods. Well, it looks pretty good to me.
Not some of my best work, but serviceable, I think.
Well, you're the artist. You just do us another one, and then leave them with me. The half-elf quickly rattles off another pretty perfect portrait of Marianne, and leaves you all at the table. Well, we can use these then to at least give the boys an idea of who they're looking for. Good thinking there.
Excellent. Well, now that that's done, to the opera house.
Yes, let's go. Let's go. Talk to the people at the opera house.
Cutler sort of nods as well. Okay, well, if you're planning on going over there and asking questions yourself, try and keep me in the loop if you can. I'm going to have another word with the commissioner. Now we've got Mr. Rant's first-hand statement. Hopefully he'll be able to make some moves based on that. But all I can say is be careful over there. At the very least, I'll try and head over there later myself, give a bit of extra security to the king. He sort of stands up before a thought hits him. Oh, just one last thing. Rummages in his desk for a second and pulls out what looks like a little medallion, kind of like a little challenge coin type thing. Mm-hmm. Any of my boys stops you in regards to this investigation, just this is my identification number. Just show him this and get him to talk to me. This doesn't give you. I want to stress, this does not give you license to commit any kind of crimes or vigilante behaviour of any sort.
We never would. Rest assured, we're not those kinds of people.
Well, good to hear it. This is just to show that you have liaised with us and you are continuing to liaise with us and help us with our inquiries. But hold on to it. We don't want it falling into the wrong hands.
All right. Mira nods and she grabs the coin.
Okay.
And walks out the door.
All right. So yeah, the four of you head back out into the Square of Heroes. It's a chilly day, but the sun is now up, and visible across the way from you, across the square, is the large bulk of the Opera House. Your next destination, I would guess.
Alright, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, February 29th for the next chapter of this story, and we hope you'll all join us for that. In the meantime, you can find us online at pretendingwithdice.com. There's links on there to everything that we do online, our social media pages, our Discord server, Ko-Fi page, merch store, and much, much more. So for now, that's our show. We hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.